Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 27th call of the Amazon Investor Coalition. This is a weekly call and podcast series dedicated to advancing force-friendly economic development across the Amazon region. It's a program of the Global Governance Philanthropy Network. This week, we are featuring Keith Aguada and his work on Producers Market. And we're going to do most of his session as a presentation, followed by lots of questions. So Keith, the floor is yours.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Keith. I'm co-founder and CEO of Producers Market. And we're a company that's based mostly between Europe, actually Boulder, we have some teammates there, in California, as well as Latin America and Panama. And basically, we're a marketing technology platform, and we are here to empower integrity in supply chains and specifically work to bring greater equity and value back to farmers and producers. And I felt the best way to kind of share with you all what we're doing and some of our ideas for how we can apply our platform and technologies to the Amazon is to show you our technologies, how it's functioning, and share some of our ideas. So I'm going to share my screen and try to walk you through the different aspects of our platform, who we are and what we do. And from there, can take questions and share ideas and brainstorm together. And actually what I'm going to do is open up our parent company site, as it will, I think, be a good way to give you a quick overview, and then I'll jump into the different aspects of our platform. So, we have essentially 4 aspects to our efforts. And it's about, again, creating this vertical value chain model where products and stories and producers and their content can reach across value chains through businesses and brands reaching end consumers. And our Producers Market is a B2B marketplace where we share the profiles of producers and their stories to connect with downstream businesses, both regionally and internationally. Storybird is an application we created that allows for our producers, our downstream brands and retailers to add a QR code or an e-commerce embed to the actual products so that the end consumers can engage with the traceability, transparency, impact metrics, and other features of their actual products and consumption. Producer Stories is where we take the storytelling, the content, the media, and also create original content around our producers and different topics that are important to us, and share across our blog and our community on our different Instagram handles. And Producers Link is our development consulting, tech-enabled consulting arm, where we work with governments, multinational nonprofits to actually develop these digitized ecosystems where we can connect directly agricultural producers and their added value stakeholders to different buyers at different scales. So quickly, with Producers Market, it functions as a discovery or marketing driven marketplace where our goal is to shift the industry from this concept of spot buys, where buyers are constantly looking for a one-time buy at the lowest possible price to then add their value and sell high and make their margins off of these kind of one-time purchasing arrangements. And we want to move into partnership supply chain models where buyers actually get to know their producers, connect directly with the farmers, the cooperatives, the collectives, the groups that are processing and packing, and be able to form these direct partnership programs where it returns greater consistency and trust to the producers to know where their buyers are. And ultimately, for the buyers, they can share a story. Because if it's one-time purchasing, it's going through brokers and wholesalers and traders, it becomes really difficult, if not impossible, for a brand or retailer, to be able to actually share their story of their supply chain partnerships. And the idea here is we're thriving off of this we call the purpose economy, that there's consumers out there. We've seen studies 80 to 90% in European, US market that want to buy products from brands that are doing good. They want transparency. They want to know the impact of their purchasing. And so we want to make it much easier for these brands to connect in with different producers so that they can actually share these stories and share their products across value chains. So, what we do is we connect in with our producer networks, and we're working a lot through government organizations like the Pro Export groups. We have a partnership with ICA based in Costa Rica that's very strong across the Americas, and working to identify producer groups that have great stories that oftentimes are not going direct to market. They're relying currently on intermediaries to get to market. And so what we do is we work with them to create profiles, and basically through a 45-minute registration process, they can have a place on the internet that helps share their story in a very well-designed, streamlined, and professional way to connect with both regional and international buyers. And any leads that come through us through this page goes directly to the producer. And in certain circumstances, we actually partner with the producers to become a sales representative, but that's an added value offering of our team. But most of our producers are here to create a profile, really identifying what their supply chain roles are, their website, their social media, having the photos and storytelling information, video, and then sharing their products where they can actually create a product page. And when we look at certain products, like coffee is one where we've been spending more energy. And again, we can look at groups that are either the cooperative or packer processor. And this becomes a data entry point of qualitative information where we capture in our system all the storytelling information, what's their role in their supply chain, what certifications they have, and again, sharing their story in this scalable format. So these are our profiles. It's really the marketing and storytelling entry point for producers. And any producer of any skill can register, and our team will do a basic due diligence to make sure that the producer is in fact legitimate and the storytelling, the certification information is there. And our sweet spot is more on cooperatives, associations, aggregators, groups that have the opportunity to sell to scale. We do impact and work with small farmers of 1 hectare, 1 acre, maybe do or don't have a cell phone, but we interact with them through these aggregator groups who are already organized. So our focus on market linkage comes in at the one step removed from the small shareholder farmer level. And specifically for what we are looking to do for the Amazon is we want to create what we call an umbrella organization page. This is a new feature we're launching in January. And basically, I'm going to show you an example of what we're doing in South India, in Andhra Pradesh, in a community of 50,000 registered farmers into 23 different cooperatives. We're working with them to onboard all these individual profiles of the 23 cooperatives, and even from those 23 cooperatives into individual farmers, and be able to build their profiles into our overall global marketplace, but then create an aggregated page so that regional stakeholders who are buyers or government or corporate buyers who want to reach a certain scale but can't go to the individual level, they can come in and interact and actually see all of the products and all of the producers who are available across this organizational group, and be able to individually learn about the specific producers, but be able to interact at a scalable level through one point of sale, one point of contact. And so one thing we've discussed with Jonah is creating a Amazon sustainable sourcing umbrella page where we can register profiles for all the different groups in our network, in Ural's network, in other government networks of verified producer organizations, and create a home where we can aggregate their profiles, and whether they're corporate buyers or regional buyers, as mentioned, they can come into this one umbrella page and see all the options, all the resources, all the groups who are there and are able to provide sourcing, or who they can contact and get in touch with in order to provide support to these farmers. So this is something that we were going to do in kind. This is a proposal that will be of no cost to any of the stakeholders here, but would be a service to start aggregating and organizing, producers of the region, so that we can start mapping and start doing more direct interaction with buyers who want to engage in the Amazon as a sustainable sourcing partner, but don't yet understand, like, who are all of the producers, where are they located, what are they growing, what scale are they at, what do they need, and we can start to aggregate, the stakeholders on the production side, on the added value processing and packing side, on the association and nonprofit side, and provide them all with profiles, and then aggregate them into this type of umbrella organization page. So in terms of Producers Market, this is the main functionality, and we are in the process of building out our proof of production application, which starts to get into actually registering the contracts, transactions, third-party logistics, financial services into an application that our aggregators can use to actually engage in their transactions and fulfilling orders. But for now, our platform is more about directory connection, so facilitating the leads and in some cases sales between buyers and sellers. But we are hoping for Q3, Q4 of 2021, we'll actually be able to facilitate the contracts, transactions, and do so on a blockchain integrated system. So maybe just for the sake of getting through the whole concept, and then we can move into questions, I'll go into our Storybird and media, and then from there we can just spend the last 30 minutes or so in questions. So what I'll show you now is our Producer Stories, which is our content site. So what we realized is that our producers have amazing stories. Our contributors from our team through third-party partners are creating amazing content around producers and sharing the obstacles, the challenges, the solutions, and just the stories in general of our producers and what they're doing to achieve more direct supply chains, for sharing recipes and sharing technology. So we created Producer Stories as an organic way to bring more visibility to certain issues and our producers and their products. And so this is Producer Stories, and we have a content team based mostly in Panama and a few freelancers in other parts of the world that work for us full time to create original content in sharing the stories of our producers and products. And we connect this in with our Instagram handles, which we have about 12 what we call ultra premium handles. This is the handle for the word organic. We also have healthy and vegans and fruit, veggies, seeds, and others, where we basically take the content of our producers and the content from Producer Stories and share it across our network, and also bring greater visibility to our producer members by linking our posts back to their accounts to help grow this community and awareness on the consumer side. What we learned is that there's a real power in building this community and the click-throughs that can happen to websites and to other accounts through social media. So we have focused a lot of energy as well on creating and building this community. And in 2021, we'll actually begin advertising and begin working with influencers. So as of now on these 12 accounts, it's just been understanding the formulas, the content systems, and now we'll be working towards actually scaling up these communities and using these as sources for our producers to connect in with communities around the world and just promoting their accounts and the growth of their systems. So that's basically our content. And finally is Storybird. And Storybird is a tool that allows the downstream brands, or actually the producers if they have their own brand, to be able to share their story, their traceability, their transparency, what makes them unique, as a QR code or e-commerce embed. And so by adding a QR code to a packaged product or to an e-commerce, we're able to basically go out and share the story in a digital application format that can be embedded through our site or through actually the brand's site directly, and be able to share different claims or values that the producer engages in, different certifications that they have with an explanation about those certifications, information about the ingredients. And then actually, for this example, it's a cooperative in Peru that works with a distributor called Fairtrasa, that they're now connecting this with a retailer in Holland called Udea. And basically we're able to show to the consumer through a QR code at the point of sale all the different steps of the value chain, the movement from the source to where it's processed, packed, the test results, the information about shipping, where it gets imported, when it gets imported, and how it then gets transported to the final point of sale. And we've built this out as a scalable tool that also can have multiple ingredients. So if we're talking about like a chocolate product that has 4 or 5 ingredients, this is an essential oil example, we could actually show across multiple ingredients how it gets from source all the way to consumer across multiple ingredient categories within one product. And so this is, we call it our beta version of Storybird, but we're going to be adding more and more features for interaction, for engagement, for seeing what the carbon or sustainable impact metrics are of products that we're going to capture through our platform, through third-party technologies that our producer groups are using, and be able to create this seamless data layer where the impact information as well as the product information and the traceability, transparency information can be made available so consumers can make decisions based upon more information being available. And finally, just an example of how we're integrating this to e-commerce. This is a sustainable seafood platform that we launched our pilot test on for e-commerce embed, where actually you can come in and through the e-commerce directly see the journey of products and see how it traveled from the source to the consumers or through the distributor to the consumers, digitally. And then we've integrated with VeChain in this example where different data points are uploaded across the journey to help provide greater transparency as to who the producers are, where the information is coming from, and how a product moves across a value chain. And we're finding this to be incredibly important in products that either have a high level of fraud or have consumers very concerned with the legitimacy of the product origin. And so we've basically spent the last 4 years with these products, first Producers Market, now into Storybird, in figuring out how to build this, how to integrate different data sources into one kind of seamless layer, and then how to scale it at the lowest possible cost so that we can get this technology out there to the consumers, to the brands, where it can be actually adapted and scaled. And so our model is to facilitate a lot of transactions at the lowest possible cost by cutting out as many intermediaries as possible and creating as much transparency as possible back to the consumers. And so in summary, we're really excited to move into 2021 where we actually get to scale and start transacting on our platform. And we see our partnerships with ICA, our partnerships with certain governments in the Caribbean and especially in the Amazon region. We're starting some work in Suriname and Guyana. We are looking at Colombia and Ecuador and Brazil as additional scale up targets. And, we're working closely with the Green Climate Fund and as well the Subnational Climate Fund that's led by Craig Kogut, who hopefully will be on a call here in the coming weeks, where we can create the added value model of commercialization, where we can facilitate these agroforestry diversified growing mechanisms and build in markets, build in traceability, build in transparency, understand the needs for added value processing, and leveraging our platform, connecting the buyers, connecting the data, connecting the impact metrics that occur at each step of these value chains to the financiers, and leveraging the credibility of leading brands, of the Fortune 500 food brands and other leading distributors and brands of furniture, in addition to just the food products and medicinal products, and leveraging that to create lower interest project finance for equity and debt to support really a major scale up of infrastructure development to post-harvest and connecting these in with markets transparently. So that is, in a nutshell, who we are and what we're doing. We're still a relatively small team. We're about 33 people, but we are looking for a lot of growth this coming year and hope that we can really leverage what we've built to come back to the source of what we're most passionate about, which is helping small farmers. Really, they help us to feel fulfilled and really, my partner, girlfriend who's on the call today, Chabeli, she's actually from Amazonas in Venezuela, and what she's always taught me about the Amazon is if we really are passionate about wanting to protect the trees and the ecosystem and environment, the best thing to do is figure out models to empower the communities and the people who are there, who already steward the land and already understand how to interact with the environment in a uplifting way, and finding sustainable models of taking their products, their culture in a in a way with integrity to bring to market these products and services. And so certainly as we look to making an impact on the Amazon, we see it's all about connecting with the individual farmers and caretakers, and our role is to do that through the cooperatives, the associations, the packers, processors, brands, financiers, and building these kind of market-driven digital coalitions. So
Great.
that takes me to the end. That was a lot. So Jonah, I'll pass it to you, and then happy to answer any questions or share any ideas.
Great. We already have one person in line for questions. Others, feel free to go ahead and prepare your questions and post your interest in the chat or raise your hand. I've got a few to lead us off. So Keith, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about who is Spencer Woodard and where did the idea of Producers Market originally come from?
Great. So Spencer is a good friend of mine who's an ethnobotanist, and he spent 15 years developing models around doing food forestry, specifically in Bocas del Toro, Panama, but has then worked in other regions of the equator into Mediterranean and subtropical climates. And Spencer learned from a gentleman named Bruce, who basically was inspired by the cultivated landscape models of the Amazon and started to look at how can we copy nature, and how the different tribes of the Amazon, the tribes of Mexico City, how these different models for water movement and for land cultivation can be used for growing medicines and foods and wood products in a diversified environment. So basically taking the botany of tropical cultivation of harvestable commercialized crops and moving them into a model. And then we worked with Spencer on projects in Panama and Colombia to say, okay, how do we take this like totally crazy food forest botany model and move it into a actual commercially viable crop system where maybe there's 10 major crops And then there's another 50 to 60 secondary crops that can be intercropped around those 10 major crops. And so we worked for years with Spencer developing these models where I personally worked, and some of our teammates, on how do we create the added value processing and commercialization strategies around a diversified planting that could reach a 200-hectare model that could be scaled, into 20,000 hectares or more, that really mimics and replicates the forest. And so that's kind of the model and system we're looking at with Green Climate Fund in Suriname and Guyana as pilot projects. And yeah.
Can you go ahead and tell us about some of your investors?
Sure. So, and just to your second question, so Producers Market, the history is, I was working for UNFI, another large distributor as well. And before that was in the greenhouse hydroponic business. And in my work doing buying from the largest natural organic distributor in North America, I just got insanely frustrated because they wouldn't buy from the groups that I was bringing to them, even though they were paying me to do so. And a lot of it was because they didn't have the scale necessary. They couldn't actually export. They didn't have the financial services to hold terms. They couldn't get product to market. They didn't have the right certifications. They preferred to buy from brokers and traders. And I could just see how obvious of a missing link there was between the groups on the ground and the brands and distributors and retailers in North America and Europe who are actually selling the product. And when we combine that with the growing demand from consumers to want to know their source, want to know their impact, want to know who's growing their product and how it got there, we felt like there was a major opportunity to start creating a digital map and focusing that digital map on stories and the storytelling of the producers who actually create the products, and creating a platform that was actually built for the farmers and producers. And so our biggest equity shareholder by actual category is our farmers. We put aside 20% of our cap table non-dilutive to do future issuance to small farmers in our networks. We haven't figured out how we're going to do it, but we're going to get there. And some of our other investors are leading brands in the organic space, some distributors, impact investors, specifically to Brazil and the Amazon. Giselle Bündchen's one of our investors, and of course is extremely passionate about both the Amazon as well as connecting with the small farmer stakeholders to get to markets. And we see ourselves really from the beginning, and where we've gotten the last 4 years is building this vertical data layer where the qualitative information, like the storytelling, as well as the data of the impact metrics, the transactional data metrics, can move seamlessly across the value chain so that the brands can know and actually share and gain that PR and marketing benefit of their impact on communities, on the environment, on producers.
Great. One last question from me, and then we'll go to Amy and then Alex. So the question is, Keith, who are some of the buyers that you're talking to, and what's the stage of the conversation?
Yeah. So we've been in conversations with, everyone from Carrefour to Walmart, Unilever, Mondelez, PriceSmart, Ferrero, Mars. The conversations range in how deep we've gotten, but it's a little bit frustrating, to be honest, with all due respect to all those organizations mentioned that I believe sincerely have strong initiatives to do sustainable procurement. When you actually get to the actual buyers and the procurement managers, it feels like it's a different tone from what their head of sustainability or their CEO level is saying. But we do feel there's a genuine interest to find out and figure out how to create these scalable, traceable models of procurement. But what we feel is necessary is the groups who are on the ground and who work, at that farmer producer cooperative level of the value chain to be able to aggregate and get to a scale and a model that allows for these larger buyers to engage in a way that fits their needs. They're unfortunately really pressed around price, quality, and certification. And it's our job, we feel, to aggregate and get to levels of scalability and infrastructure where we can fit the needs of these different buying groups to, provide the buyer force in order to get the financing to develop these models and the financial services at low interest. And it's going to take both the buyers coming to the table to guarantee purchasing from these groups and from the finance community to trust these buyers and then trust the local operators to fulfill it.
Great. Thank you. Amy, you're up.
Hey, Keith, that was amazing. I come out of the cooperative movement, my previous life, so I was really excited to hear that you're working with cooperatives and associations. And so I have lots of questions, but I just love it. I love the interface. It looks amazing. It's super exciting. I have one comment and two questions. The comment is I would love to collaborate with you on integrating land rights into some of your producer stories and actually focusing on land rights as one of the value adds for producers. I would love to do that. I work for Cadasta. We focus on global land rights using also technology platforms. So that's one comment, but the questions are one, your business model primarily going to be driven by the commercial platform as a sort of percentage off the trading or off the connections, the market connections? One. And then the second thing is if you could talk a little bit more about the blockchain application and how you see that evolving and how important that actually is to the model.
Great.
Thanks.
So yeah, great questions, and thanks for that feedback. And yeah, we'd love to learn more about integrating land rights as a value add. I'm sure our product team would be super excited to learn about that. And what you've seen is just a basic infrastructure where now we can start to add in all different types of features, customization to communicate these values. So I appreciate that. And our model is about creating a large network. And through this building of a larger network, we can take smaller transaction fees. It's basically looking at an intermediary that might take between 5 and 10 or 20% or more of the value chain and bringing it down to 1 to 2% from what we take. And so we're looking at different sliding scale models of what percentage of commission we take based upon how involved we are in that specific value chain. And our Storybird is a software license fee. That's a per year fee that we're charging to retailers and brands. So we don't see that as something we want to put onto the producer. We feel like it should come out of the marketing department of the retailers and brands who are sharing the story of their producers. So that's a software license fee. And then, one other aspect of our platform that I didn't share is we are working towards our producer's brand. So we see this as like a scalable public label, kind of like private label, except we want it to be fully transparent as to where our products come from. So in a lot of our communities we're working, some of the cooperatives, some of the small to mid-sized producers, they don't have the bandwidth to start building a brand for themselves or managing a brand or going through that process of marketing in the United States or Europe where there's a premium product. So we're going to roll out in Q1 of this coming year, having our brand available for producers who really fit our ethos in terms of how they treat their workers, the environment. Organic certified isn't mandatory because there's value chains, as I'm sure you're aware, that don't use chemicals, but they couldn't afford or didn't want to go through the organic process. So we see our brand as an opportunity to really be a true representative of our producers with our brand and to be able to share the stories with Storybird on our products and do a transparent profit share model back to the cooperatives or to certain projects where we're targeting a certain percentage of our revenues from the sale of the product to directly to the communities where we're sourcing from. So this is going to be one of our larger growth areas of profitability, is through actually wholesaling and doing direct to consumer sales of our branded products.
Great, thank you. Alex, please reintroduce yourself and share your question with us.
Yes, hello. Congratulations, Keith. That's a really, really nice initiative. I really loved it, even the way that you included storytelling. I've been working the last couple of years with cooperatives and associations in the Brazilian Amazon, and these community organizations, they sure have a lot of good stories to tell, and it's really hard for them to survive as they produce on a smaller scale, as you well know. I have two questions for you. The first one, how do you know if the cooperative or seller on your homepage is really in condition to sell? I mean, if they comply with the sanitary barriers or with novel foods regulations in Europe. So once they're up there, if there is a buyer, if he really can buy from them, if they can really supply the product, that's one doubt I have, because at least in Brazil, it's pretty complex. You need a different status if you want to sell outside the municipality, then outside the state, and even outside the country, it's more complex. And my second question is about the pricing. I know you have the prices on when you showed the platform. How do you get to the pricing? Are the sellers setting the price, or do they have a good idea what's the real price in dollars or in euros? Or how do they get to the price? These are my two questions. Thank you, and then congratulations. Very nice initiative.
Yeah, thank you, Alexander. Two very, very great questions, and we have at least part of the answer. And the truth is, it's going to require a lot more collaboration, R&D, and bringing products to market to solve it in a scalable way. But in terms of supplying the right products to the buyers, this is where we get to know each producer that gets registered and understanding what certifications do they have. Do they have experience exporting? What languages do they speak? And understanding, are they actually export ready or not? And being able to also filter the leads from the buyers as they come in. And we want in the future to have a natural filtering system that a buyer is not going to connect, say, a buyer in Holland who wants to buy Brazil nuts from Brazil. We want them to be able to filter through our site if the producer is already export ready, if their certifications are validated, what scale they have, what terms that they can use. And so certainly we want it to be a natural filtering process, but in the kind of next 6 to 12 months, our team is actually filtering these leads and making sure that if we're going to connect a credible buyer to one of our producers, that it's not going to be a dead end, that the producer we're connecting them to can actually fulfill the ordering and commercial needs of that buyer. So, part of what we've realized coming from the industry is this is not going to be just a digital solution. I think anyone who thinks that we're going to solve these supply chain issues by just creating an app in Silicon Valley and giving it to people and thinking it's going to work, they don't understand at all the complexities of value chains. And so it's going to require a very hands-on approach from the nonprofit associations, the cooperatives, the governments, for-profit entities like ours who are social impact. So I do believe it's going to require a lot of handholding on negotiation on pricing, specifications, managing the sale, managing the logistical process, that this unfortunately is going to be offline for at least the next 12 months. We're working on solving it, but the reality is it's very complex, as I'm sure you all know. So we think that our platform is a hybrid tool It requires a lot of offline work, a lot of relationship and communication-based work in order for these transactions to happen. And the reason that we call ourselves a partnership platform as opposed to like a spot buy marketplace is because we can work through these issues, invest the time to set up a value chain. Because as you all know, once a value chain is set up, then it can start to move and scale. But it might take a year or 2 years for the first container transaction to happen because of all the certifications, added value, quality control, and all these issues. But then once that first container is going, then it can go to 2 containers, then 10, then 20, then 50. So we really see our platform as planting lots of seeds to build partnerships and then allowing for that offline, online kind of hybrid model to take hold. And to also touch on what Amy asked too about using blockchain, anyone who thinks blockchain or proposes blockchain as this like silver bullet solution, I think doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, blockchain is just a great technology that can be applied for building in different trust, but the data that goes into it has to be validated, verified to be trustworthy. And, the data integrity of the producer groups, making sure that, the information that's collected, whether it's marketing and data or qualitative, that it can be exchanged and permissioned and to the benefit and transparently used to the benefit of the users of the producer groups. That's where blockchain, I think, can play an amazing role. And for downstream value chain stakeholders like brands, like the retailers, distributors, logistics providers can all plug in to one real-time data bilateral network can be another area. But I think it first starts with organizing. Who are the aggregators? Who are the agripreneurs? The agripreneurs being a concept in India and Africa that's become just massive, where there's community resource persons in the areas where the farmers are that can actually onboard small farmers, onboard data, information, go take photos, capture transactions, audits that can be done through local people in these communities. That this agripreneur model as well is where something like blockchain and validating information, auditing, but it needs a system to plug into. And so what we're working to do is to plug these different ERP data systems, information capture systems into one omni-channel architecture, or essentially, these interoperability systems. So whether you're working on IBM Food Trust blockchain or VeChain or BankU or Oracle system or Microsoft system, and so on and so forth, that it doesn't become a burden to the aggregator, to the packer processor, to the small farmer, but it can easily move the data in and out of different systems based upon what buyer wants to use that system. So if Unilever wants to use IBM system and Carrefour wants IBM system, but Walmart China wants to use VeChain system, you don't want the producer groups to have to work across 3 different applications or 10 different applications. So we think part of the solution is to allow for diversified marketing channels by having data interoperability, so that a producer doesn't have to get married to Unilever simply because now they're in their data system. We think it should be a democratization of markets and marketing channels.
Great. Thank you, Alex and Keith. Ruben, you have a related question.
Yes, I think you partially answered it. And hi, I'm Ruben. I work at EDF, Environmental Defense Fund. I was just wondering if your model is mostly about information sharing and creating transparency versus or requiring particular standards or certifications or sustainability requirements of some sort. And you mentioned that you were trying to encourage certain ethos of producers, but I was wondering how you, if you provide some kind of screening. It sounded like there's some informal method, but if you could say more about that, would be great.
Yeah, great question, Ruben. And this has been a philosophical debate amongst our team since we started, because we're all here to make regenerative agriculture and sustainable supply chain become not the 0.1%, but the 99.9%, right? That's the goal. The reality that we're facing on supply chains is that a lot of the groups and individuals on the supply chains are not exposed or are scared of sustainability or think that it's just going to lose them money or it's going to cost too much. And so what we really want to do is build an inclusive network. And, you know, for example, we're not working with any groups that, you know, on the animal side, we won't touch anything that's factory farmed or that's GMO corn and soy. There's some things we're just not going to touch. But we do feel like when it comes to our brand, when it comes to us engaging in trade facilitation, when it comes to our platform, doing our content, our storytelling, all of that is going to be centered entirely around the producers that are doing at least organic, but into fair trade, into sustainability focused. And so what we want to do is become an inclusive platform so that if people want to build profiles, we now have engagement with all different types of producers all around the world. But what we're really working to do is build the incentivization programs and to connecting in with the buyers that are willing to incentivize producers to move into these sustainable metrics. So the approach that we've taken, and to be honest, it's an experiment. You know, we don't know if it's going to work. We hope it does, but we want to build an inclusive network and then leverage our added value operations, our added value efforts to use our traceability tools, our transparency tools, our market connectivity, our buyer relationships, our media sites, everything around how do we promote, how do we support, how do we finance, and how do we help the groups that either want to move into that type of production or already are in that type of production.
I have another question. Amy had questions as well, but she had to go. So if others are in line and have questions, they're welcome. My question is about the financial models. Sometimes land acquisition is a major stumbling block. You want to start a new farm, the cost of acquiring that land is prohibitive, but you might be able to rent it or something else. I'm just wondering if you guys have innovated a way around this as you explore financial models.
Yeah, really great question. The way we're looking at our platform is to be able to plug in to groups that have unique solutions. So, you know, there's a group called Steward that is doing crowdfunding for farmers, you know, to buy added value equipment or to do different, you know, asset investments. And where we see our platform is a great connectivity point to groups who are solving these types of challenges, whether it's financial services or investment or gaining capital to be able to lease or own land. We don't see ourselves directly engaging. We see ourselves leveraging our ecosystem, our partnerships, and our kind of exposure to support groups that have that singular focus to achieve those goals. Jonah, I think you're on mute. Yeah.
I am, yeah. I'm going to paste a link here. This is an article that Keith recently reviewed. It's something that I put together over the past 6 months, looking at the market opportunity of agroforestry to replace soy and cattle in the Amazon. So part of our goal as a network is to work at a macro level, macroeconomic level. How can we use the power of global markets and global philanthropy to accelerate forest-friendly economic development across the region? You've been talking with a lot of different stakeholders as well, global stakeholders who haven't yet come together on the Amazon, but can, and you represent one pathway to make that happen. And part of your story illustrates that, just you guys becoming a successful company. Could you tell me a little bit about the threshold question that some of the small producers face and how to make their products viable? So for example, Mayakoba beans or white cacao beans from the Amazon. I remember us talking about how 1 or 2 pallets isn't worth it for most retailers, and somehow you guys might might provide a solution for such producers.
Yeah, thank you, Jonah. And I highly recommend everyone checking out that article that Jonah included. It's long overdue that an article like that's come out. So definitely kudos and thank you, Jonah, for creating that document. Yeah, I mean, the big challenge is it's when someone's thinking about the livelihood of their family and they know that, hey, if I put down some soy or if I cut down trees and do some cattle, I know there's a market and it's established, it's available, it's easy, and I'll get what I need. And then looking at this model of agroforestry or growing a macambo, where people may not even know what a macambo is, or acai, which they know is highly perishable, how does it get to market? I think what we really want to achieve is connecting in the buyers and the aggregators and creating that map, that digital map and framework of who are the processors, who are the packers regionally, who are the logistics providers that can fulfill these orders, and what's missing. So if maybe for macambo, they need a drying facility. Okay, now how do we work with these aggregate investor groups to connect in to financing, that infrastructure development based around knowing that there's a market contract on our platform ready to buy those macambo beans. So we really see ourselves as nothing more than connecting the pieces of what's already happening and where the intentions already are, and identifying where those gaps in the supply chain are. So, again, like building out that regional sustainable Amazon procurement platform, we can start to basically like funnel some of the buyers we work with and say, hey, here's some of the producers that our partners are working with within this region. What products are interesting? What would you like? And then it takes that value chain by value chain exploration and understanding how do we build these scalable models around added value processing infrastructure and investment based around these digitally integrated systems of connecting markets with finance with production.
Great. Any other questions for Keith? I'd like to call in a couple of people to introduce themselves who are new to the call and who I believe will be able to help. Hey, Walter Link, if you're there, I'd love you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your work. You're on mute.
I am on mute. Hi everybody. What do you want me to say?
Tell us about now.
Okay. So I used to co-own an industrial group of companies, and 30 years ago I wanted to make that sustainable. I realized that you can only do that when you also work with the whole system, because the problem, as you all know, is that individual organizations can only, in a way, do what the overall marketplace asks. And so at the time, we were representing very large corporations that had their products like Siemens and Carrier and Merck and so forth. And so we could do a lot in our companies, changing our companies, but we could not change our products to the degree that we wanted, because these products depended on these big multinational corporations. So I left the management of the group to my brother, and I went to create the first sustainable business networks together with the owners and leaders of companies. And at the time it was like, people like Anita Roddick, who founded the Body Shop, and Ben Cohen, who founded, Ben & Jerry's and many other companies, the names of which you may not know. And as you all know, the movement grew, and I look around the screen, and it's wonderful to see so many younger faces and see how huge this movement has become. But I think the movement obviously still has to grow much further. And so what we're doing with now partners is we bring together the people who can really transform companies, especially large companies, so not so much smaller ones. And for example, one of my main partners is the founder of the B Corp movement in Europe, and there are, the B Corp movement in throughout the Americas, called Sistema B. And and we've just worked, for example, with Natura, which is Natura Group, which started out as a very value-driven small company in Brazil and now has become the 4th largest beauty group in the world, to help them develop their vision for the next 10 years. And do the same with other very large companies, and also with a lot of family-owned companies throughout the global South. So we provide under Now.Partners, you can see that a full range of transformation services for large companies, multinationals, and also large family companies, as I said, and we also build, continue to build the B Corp movement and other business movements. And we entered into a big, collaboration with, for example, the Vatican, to help think about how could somebody who thinks of themselves as Christian or Buddhist or another secular value-driven orientation transform their business into a value-driven business that fully integrates economic success with the regeneration of people and planet. And so the Amazon is also very much a region that we're interested in, and there's a big movement of Brazilian companies that we are close to that are working on creating agroforestry and all kind of other businesses. Natura has a big production facility in the Amazon, has been working for decades on sourcing products, but also producing them there, empowering people locally to develop their entrepreneurial capacity to, in a way, make more money with the tree standing. And it's as you all know, very complex undertaking. And now I'm looking at how can we connect these Brazilian and Latin American Amazon-related businesses with, for example, for example, with the religious communities that have so much influence in these regions, and so we work typically with big institutions and so forth. But of course, we love very much what you were just describing, because I think in addition to these large institutions, you need to have a lot of small producers. You need to have a lot of connection to consumers, and because it's not only that they buy the products. I think the key is that they realize a different economy is possible. And I think that's what we all do together. And the more people know that and participate in it, the more we can actually bring about systems change. So,
nice. So I see your original connection opportunity on this call as CEOs of corporations are inspired to go sustainable and look for ways to make it possible. Keith's technology presents an opportunity. And this is the beauty of the connectivity on this call. Keith, I'd love to ask if you can share your email address in the chat so that people can follow up with you.
Yeah, of course. That would be amazing. I'm gonna write it here. And as we get closer to actually creating our umbrella organization page for the different producers, we're gonna speak with Jonah and hopefully with all you folks, if you do have great producers or groups within the Amazon that you guys know are doing great work, that we can add in to build this kind of connection point. That we'd love any support and any ideas that you guys have.
I just want to recognize that we're at the top of the hour. This is the time that we switch the conversation over to less of an interview and more of an unstructured conversation. And usually most folks chime out, but the line will be open, the chat room will be open, and I'll be here, as will others. So Sarah, I see you coming on. Did you have a question? It's great to see you.
Hi, it's good to see you too. Thank you, Keith, for sharing. I did ask a question in the chat about whether or not this is mainly food specific, or if your like the production materials can affect beauty products, maybe cleaning solutions. I know you mentioned essences, if it can be a marketplace for that as well, or if it's just food specific right now.
Yeah.
And then I do have a second question is, I know that it's Amazon focused, but there are other regions within, let's say Peru, that might not be Amazon, but still have that similar ethos of supporting small farmers and producers. So I'm wondering if that's on the table as well.
Yeah. So yeah, we're focused on any of these products from the natural environment. So we've done a project in sustainable organic cotton supply chain, so textile, some beauty, skincare, shea butter, things like that from Africa. And we work with actually a sustainable land management group in the Amazon in Brazil that does sustainable forestry, so for wood products. And so we're open to all different types of producers across categories. We just tend to focus a lot of energy on food products because it's kind of like our sweet spot, but we're happy to work with producers and work with supply chains outside of it, outside of that focus, and now even into aquaculture and seafood as well. And yeah, I mean, really the focus for the call is the Amazon, and it's such an important, region for us. But Peru and other areas in South America, Latin America is as well a big focus. So we know tends to be more organization amongst co-ops, amongst outputs in other areas of like Peru and Colombia and elsewhere outside of the Amazon. But we're happy to engage with all different types of producers around different geographies.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Any other conversations? Okay, I think that may be a wrap. Thanks so much for joining us, Keith and everybody else. We won't have a call next week, just so you know, between Christmas and New Year's. It's great to see everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Jonah, and thank you everyone for spending your energy today to hear the presentation, learn about what we're doing, and we're here to answer any questions. And thank you guys. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Jonah.
You bet. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.